Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go over surrendering to the right hemisphere because this is something I was thinking about for a while. It's like what are all these religious, in the text, like when it says to surrender to God, or like how the people go through that process and why we have rituals, like the purpose of it, right? It's like if I already believe, then why do I surrender? Why do I continue to surrender? And like, how do I first surrender, right? So the first things you want to do are do things of the left hemisphere, or like do things that are of that Luciferian intellect, because that's what you're surrendering. You're surrendering your ego. You're surrendering your conception of yourself to the whole. So the specific, the part of you, the specific that is you, you're surrendering it to the whole, which is your right hemisphere. So the right hemisphere is in control. It's the one that's dictating and governing your actions. So surrendering, you must do things of the nature of the left hemisphere in service of the right, like I was saying. Saying you surrender is one method. So talking, using your words, that is of the left hemisphere. And I've said that many times, right? So when you verbally say out loud that I surrender, your left hemisphere understands and acknowledges that it is the one that is not in control. It is not the one that needs to listen, or it needs to listen. So, grabbing holy items with your right hand, and while you say those things, your right hand goes to your left hemisphere. So when you hold things with your right hand and you say those things, it becomes even more powerful, because then you really surrender that left hemisphere. And that's like some of the most powerful things you can do is by doing that. So you hold a holy item, which is something that you feel connects you in a relationship with somebody, whether that's like an urn, a family urn, or anything that has to do with a relationship with beings or reality in some way, like, children hold their dolls. That's one example. So something like that. Or you can write down that you surrender. Like, writing is of the left hemisphere as well. And that's why a lot of us write, unless you write with your left hand, which is not super common, but you want to write with your right hand because it goes to your left hemisphere as well. And you want to say that you surrender to God and that you are accepting of Him, that you want to find the meaning and connection, that you love others, and doing things in an organized manner that have to do with relationships. So when you schedule your routines throughout the day, make sure that you schedule in time for relationships. And I need to work on this as well. Like, make sure that you make time to form connections with people, and especially the people that you love the most. And you want to keep those connections strong, because that's what keeps us going in life. So remembering to surrender takes time, and surrendering itself takes time. So like, if somebody sits there one time and they say, I surrender, it's like, nothing's happening over here. You said this would help, but this is something that takes time, effort. And not only that, but you can't just say it. You have to gain the knowledge necessary to draw the connections. I understand the mechanisms now to have spiritual awakenings. It is gathering enough information in your mind, simultaneously surrendering your hedonistic left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. This epiphany, to me, is what is going to change people's lives. And it's going to change our understanding of science, reality, and our relationship with reality. Okay, so remember, this surrender takes time. You must gain knowledge of the way the world works. Like I was saying, you must understand things better, like the way things actually work, not rationalizations. Rationalizations are just maps. It's fake. It's not real. So do not, once you understand dichotomous theory, you can apply it and say, this is how the real world really works, and this is how I'm perceiving it, and then you draw those connections. So you must gain knowledge. During the period, you will need to ground yourself and expand again, eventually coming to that new equilibrium and understanding of who and what you are in your relationship with everything. So once you have this spiritual awakening, you're going to feel like anxious, nauseous, all these different feelings. Everyone's is different. Everyone's going to last a different amount of time. And some things may be revealed to you depending on what you study, depending on how much truth you've been aiming at throughout your life. That's how much is going to be revealed to you. And it could be a lot, it could be a little, and that's okay. All of us are going to have a different amount, but as long as we're all aiming at truth, then it'll be good and beneficial for all of us. So this is how I think you can physically surrender in a real material way, in a logical, mechanistic way that surrenders to that right holistic hemisphere. So this is how I did it. I was sitting there thinking about the two hemispheres and how the relationship, and then it just came, and it was overwhelming. I was literally in tears, and I saw the connections, and and it drew it out. But I'm 31, so it may take time, and I've watched thousands and thousands of hours of videos on philosophy, science, religion, and all these other things before these epiphanies happen. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you need to dedicate yourself to understanding reality in order for this to happen to you. And if you dedicate yourself to that, you will have one eventually. And it will be beautiful. It'll be scary. You'll lose your sense of self. You'll lose your ego. But you'll also gain so much more, and appreciation for others, appreciation for life. So I hope this is a good starting point to understand how to surrender. I'm sure there's more knowledge on this, especially whenever the next rapture happens. But I think this rapture will be very interesting, because the first rapture only happened once, and it wasn't recorded. This one will be recorded, and the next one's like, okay, we know this is coming eventually, just at what point. So now that we can record it and keep it as information forever, it's a lot simpler for us to understand it, especially now that we can find that equilibrium between the hemispheres, and as long as we understand dichotomies and dichotomology. So thank you all for listening, and I love you, and surrender to your right hemisphere, but give the devil his due. Thank you.